then just went over to the vendor slides, and I literally saw secret rare Mermail Abyss Megalo, and I was just, oh, that's the coolest card I've ever seen in my life. And I looked up a profile on my phone, and I got some guys who were like working the vending, like telling me what like cards were played in the Mermail deck, and we went and they had everything. Although Yu-Gi-Oh was honestly my savior probably during prep as well. Like locals became my day off from bodybuilding, which it still is now, and that's probably why I go to locals. That self confidence in yourself, I think, can actually take you going from losing out at locals constantly to actually kind of just like clearing locals like weekly to weekly, and then going further than that, going to a regional level and having success.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to episode 3 of Phantom's Cast. Today I am joined by one of the fastest growing Yugi tubers on the scene, probably both because of the popularity of his deck and his recent success at regionals. So welcome DeepseaYGO. How you doing today, man?
Good, doing great. Yeah, having a coming off of a really nice top of that last regional. That was a big step for me, and I did get a little bit of growth from that, which is cool. And now I just gotta find something to do with it.
Yeah,
So
right
yeah.
on. Nice. So you are a dedicated Mermail player, have been for how long? How long have you been playing Mermails?
Oh, I've owned and I've loved the deck for about 10 years now. My time in the game has been very in and out. So I've maybe actually only spent maybe about 5 or 6 years playing the game in like in those last 10. But the first regional I ever went to was with the Pendulum Magician structure deck, and it was when like Cosmos were around, and yeah, it was like the beginning of the Pendulum era, or like the real Pendulum era, like right before Full Power Pepe. And I went there with this Pendulum structure deck, played it out, got bop first regional, had no idea what I was doing. And then just went over to the vendor slides, and I literally saw secret rare Mermail Abyss Megalo, and I was just, oh, that's the coolest card I've ever seen in my life. And I looked up a profile on my phone, and I got some guys who were like working the vending, like telling me what like cards were played in the Mermail deck, and we went and they had everything from like a couple ulti Lins, ulti Dragoons. They had like the secret Megalos, ulti Teus. I picked up the whole core right there, and the best part was like I think I maybe spent $100 maybe on the entirety of the Mermail Atlanteans. Everything was maxed out rarity at that point. The only thing was I think Dragoons was either at 1 or still at 2 at the time. So I only got the 1 or 2 ultis I needed. And then it came to 3 when I was gone. And when it came back to 3, it was like 160 plus for that ulti Dragoons. I've never picked it up since. But other than that, yeah, max rarity water out here, boys. But yeah, so I picked it up there and then, and I love the strategy, and I also knew what water was from like watching Patrick Hoban. Like I loved watching all of like the top matches, the top pro matches. I'll find like ARGs and stuff, and I loved seeing he had like 3 feature matches. There was like a ARG that he won with like Mermail control. I'd watched that, and I'd seen that too, and so I had an idea of like what the deck may look like. That was an older format, but it still like built like the love for the strategy. I love the way the cards worked. I love the way they looked. It's a combo deck, which is like my thing, and yeah, so I picked up for a while and just been kind of playing it on and off ever since. The power level for water has gone. It's fluctuated a lot throughout the game. When Prince came out, the deck had a huge jump in like power spike, and all of a sudden it was just like ultimate going second strategy. You main 3 kaiju's, you main a couple, probably like you probably mained like at least 2 infantry, probably 3, and like 3 megalos, and you just try and win on the first turn, going second, and it was really fun. And then there was another stage where it got really strong with where again Patrick Hoban had actually taken the deck again, and he had brought in the swap rock package, which he was putting up like triple toad negates during ABC format. And so during ABCs and like metal foes, the deck got this resurgence of power again, and all of a sudden it went from being the OTK deck to the first time it was ever a build a board ultimate amount of omni negates. You can't stop me, hand looping everything. It was really cool. So and then after that, I think water kind of it kept going like up and down. I think even during the Link era, it was able to abuse the Tomahawk card and like the nightmares. like Nightmare Goblin in water, it was insane because the Nightmare Goblin I think gives you like an extra normal summon for discarding, and water with 2 normal summons is absolutely absurd. Even today, like the normal summon effect off of infantry
Yeah.
is always pretty impactful. So yeah.
I mean, you got lucky picking a deck that would last you 10 years. There's not many that you could have picked, if any,
True,
like
true.
that'll take you from
Yeah, who
2015
would
to
have
now.
thought?
So that's pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But yeah, sweet. So you've been playing water for 10 years. Then when did you start your channel up? When did you start doing content?
Oh, I think I started at like the beginning of COVID. Like right around the beginning of COVID, when like, oh, it was when the set that dropped that had Access Code Talker and the
Yeah.
new Deep Sea cards had come out. We had gotten Deep Sea Aria, which seemed a lot more broken before we actually got to play with it. That other card was unfortunately kind of a yeah, kind of a sad payoff for that one. But we did get Minstrel, and when we got Minstrel, and we had Hulk, and you could also get waterlocked and still play Hulk, so that was cool too. But we were making when those cards came out, you were making like VFD and abusing Minstrel and like just link climbing. The deck just link climbed like crazy. And so when I got that, that's when I started. That's when I posted like my first profile, and I'd done like one profile, one follow up profile, one budget profile, and then never posted. Just it was kind of like I just like left it after that.
Yeah.
And then I came back. I think like the end. I think it was around. So I took like a tour like a 2.5 year hiatus. Mainly due to life stuff. Just like I had a new job coming to the mix. I have 3 kids, which we can get to that later. But so just dad life coming in, work life coming in, and then trying to like work on life balancing. The Yu-Gi-Oh kind of had to like just kind of I had to leave it for a couple years, and then once I kind of like rebuilt like my groundwork up, I was able to start playing again. And I noticed that when I got back into the game, uh, it was like November, I think of last year, November, October, and I started trying to pick up water again because there were some cool cards. Ice Jade Ran, I think, had come out by that time when I came back in the game, and then there was also other cool water support cards like a Bishark was around. That was an interesting extender. We had like gotten White Aura cards a little bit later, and when I started playing water again, I just noticed that there was no other water content like almost at all available for Mermail Atlanteans. Like there was shark content, there was Marincess, but there's nothing for Mermail Atlanteans. And I was over here, trying to build the deck on my own and like figure out what strategy worked. And I was just having a really hard time, and I couldn't figure it out, and it didn't seem like anyone else online was figuring it out. So my idea was, all right, well, I'll just start recording whatever I can think of, like combo videos or deck profiles or gameplay, and just let like I post them so someone can finally tell me how to play my deck better because I just felt like I needed help like getting better with water, but there was really nothing out there for guidance. So I just started posting everything hoping that people would, come at me and just tell me like, "Oh dude, you're doing this way wrong," or "Dude, why are you not playing this?" Like that's all I wanted in the beginning. I just wanted to know how to play my deck, to be honest.
Yeah, no, and I resonate with that a lot because I post a lot of content for rogue strategies that I try to find the decks that nobody posts about, and I try to put out a guide like to teach players how to play this deck because no high level YouTuber is going to teach you how to play Plunder Patrol because hey, it's a table 500 deck, but that's where I come in, right? And then that's kind of like it sounds like what your goal was at the time because at the time Mermail was also like a no name deck in terms of it's not topping anything, right? So there's no real input of content from the higher level creators that you might wish it was from. So the only answer is to become that high level creator. So that's pretty awesome, and I kind of I vibe with that. So yeah,
Yeah, no, you're spot on, man. Yeah, I mean, it's not like Water was even that good of a deck at the time. It really wasn't.
yeah,
It was a challenge to make that deck work. Where I ended up actually falling was I had a buddy who had reached out on Facebook, and he had been working on like an Ice Jade Atlantean variants where you basically basically Atlanteans is the engine that complements Ice Shades. Ice Shades was honestly like the focal point of the deck. Because the Mermail landing cards at the time weren't good enough. There were two neg, too many. Our best discards were Teus and Megalo. Like that's it. And so we just and so we wanted to use cards more like Ice Shade Ran, and there was like the level 3 Ice Shade Agerine, and they had like the triple Cradles, and they had a couple other cool Ice Shade cards. So that helped bring the deck to life. But yeah, at the time the deck was doing nothing. So there was really any success for the deck to make anyone want to make content for it. Yeah. And I think I just kind of jumped in that hole and just filled that hole before anything had really come out because once the water support had gotten announced, all of a sudden there was a huge amount of water hype like right away. And I even see a couple old water channels that came back to life for a little bit to like talk about the new news. You see like Shire coming back into the mix, and that was really cool. And so and now it's awesome. Now it's flourishing. The water community is on top. I love it. There's so many water creators around.
Yeah.
There's like now we have like like the pro players doing good with the water deck.
Mm-hmm.
Which is cool, but kind of a it's like a two, what's the term? What's the phrase? It's like two sides of a sword.
Yeah.
It's like it's awesome that we have like people showing off the deck and guys like Christian Urena and Pack and all those guys showing the deck off. On the other sense though, it makes the deck more popular and like we're definitely getting to a point where we're losing that rogue status. I mean, we've lost the rogue status. But water is an interesting position where I noticed that even though it's so popular and everyone's so afraid of it, people still really don't know what it does, and people still don't really know how to interact with it. I don't think people have really prepared themselves to deal with it. I think water kind of falls in like a similar boat of just like a deck like maybe Dark World, where it's just like a combo deck, or it's like, I didn't play or see any like gimmick puppet FTK. I know that was a deck for like a little while and they banned one of the cards in that, but it's a deck like that where everyone's afraid of it. It'll beat you if it wins in the first turn, but no one really prepares themselves for how to interact with it still. And so it still has it's in this weird limbo spot where it's still rogue in terms of, people don't know how to interact with your deck and you still get free matches off of that. But then at the same time, it's like, I would definitely consider it like top 5 best decks at least right now, which is awesome. I mean, we're in the middle of full power water right now, which has been a long time coming. But yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I picked up your channel back. I think it was probably a year ago, maybe more. It was before the support, and you were playing this Ice Jade Atlantean stuff, and I'm like, this is so cool. These Ice Jade cards are actually kind of cool. I want to play this deck. So I actually bought all the Ice Jade cards because I also make content for water decks, but not Mermail. Like I had a lot of popularity with my attempt at playing the Goaty deck, which was absolutely awful. Yeah. And I was buying like every water card that I could to try to put something together to make this work. And then there's like Ice J cards, and I'm like, well, I already have all of the water cards, so I might as well play, your deck because it seems way better than this crap fish synchro deck. So I picked those up. I was super stoked. And then I say unfortunately at the same time, like the coolness. I like the coolness of the Ice Jades, the kind of uniqueness. Nobody ever played those cards ever. So I was like, hell yeah, I want to be able to play this deck. And then we got the new support, and I'm like, well, there's no reason to ever play the Ice Jade cards anymore, so whatever. So I think for me, Ice Jade was the coolest way to play Mermail in the last 2 years, but it's obviously overshadowed by everything that's come out now. But do you feel a similar way about any particular era of Mermail? Is there a favorite era, or I had a lot of fun building this specific style of Mermail, even though it's not the best anymore. Like I feel about the Ice Jade cards. Do you think any particular version was cool?
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say during that ABC Metalfoes format, when we had Swap Frog and Rodent Totem, and you would abuse cards like I think it's Abyss Oshia. the one that would send a level 7 from your field to the grave to summon a level 3 and level 4 from your deck.
Yeah.
That was during that area where you'd basically try and combo off. You'd summon multiple. You basically try and summon 3 totally awesomes in one turn. That was back before links. So there's a lot of field clogging, but you could still pull it off. Your end board would be double Bahamut, triple Toad, and that was pretty sick. You'd have that with but that was also during Max C format. So Max C was a tough card against our deck, and I don't know about you, but I've noticed that when I was younger, around like 16 to like 18, I was probably at my technical play and like in my prime. That was because you're a kid in high school or right after high school. You have all the time in the world. Like the buddies would come over right after school and you just play. You just play the rest of the day. So and I would get all the reps and all the matches and I needed. So my technical play was on point, but my deck building abilities were in the garbage. Like I was okay, and you can always net deck at like when you need to, but for the most part, yeah, my deck building was not strong. So I definitely could have seen a lot more success if I had better deck building skills back then. But now it's at a different place where I feel like my deck building is pretty strong, or at least like in the theory department, it's pretty good. But the technical play is definitely the harder part of today. Maybe because the game is a lot more complex. I think, like even back in like even like in like full Pepe area, full power Pepe, and ABC Metal Foes, and then even like the Hulk era, like with Hulk and when Minstrel first came out and you were like doing VFD, the game felt even simpler in all those formats. Where today, I do really like the way the game is today. But the game today has a lot more interactions and it's a lot more grindier, even for water. But you still have to grind every once in a while. And so the game is very difficult today, but in a rewarding way, not in a bad way. But yeah, I would definitely say that like Triple Toad era with like Swap Frog and Ronin Toadin, man, I can't wait to see Ronin Toadin off the list. The Swap Frog engine was one of the strongest and probably the strongest supplementary engine we had for the deck. Just because Ronin Toadin was an absolutely insane card because you'd be able to like summon discard a water, summon Swap Frog, send Ronin, and then at the very least you can like coral back the Ronin to make a free like hard Toad right there. But then in the best case, every single turn, once you didn't typically have to actually use your Ronin Toad and banish effects on your first turn to summon back to the field. So on the follow up, you'd always have like 2 to 3 Swap Frogs in grave plus a Ronin Toadin, and then just the link climbing was insane because Ronin Toadin is not once per turn to banish the swap to summon back to the field. So that was really strong. But yeah, that was probably my favorite format.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, and it's kind of interesting that Mermail is actually popping off now, as opposed to, well, I guess because of the new cards primarily, but it's actually like a grindier format now. And Mermail is typically like, I'm gonna dump my whole hand turn 1, and if you break it, then I guess you got it. And that's kind of what it's been for a long time. But now all of a sudden, there's some grind game in there. Even though the other decks are grindy too, like Raziel and Malice can play forever, it seems like Fiendsmith can play forever, and Mermail's still at the top is kind of cool. It's kind of cool that we've shifted into not only building a mega board, but also being able to play on turn 3 and actually having cards left. So I think that's
yeah. Yeah, water. It's funny because water is still a glass cannon. You're for the most part putting out all your resources on the first turn, and if you don't win it off, your opportunity for success definitely drops by a pretty hard percentage after that first turn, whether you go first or second. But the grind is there. There is a power increase in terms of our grind game, and I would say cards like Shrine play a big role in that regard. I actually think Poseidra, the main deck Poseidra, is probably the best card we have for the grind game. As I currently I'm testing that card at 3 because I think that is probably our main card that gives us the grind game every single turn. Just the fact that you put a big body on board, it's constantly spinning back a card and dumping waters. It's funny because all the power level of decks have gone up and water with that. So yeah, and we're also not meant to be able to beat Raziel in a grind game. We're not meant to be able to beat Malice in a grind game because this is not the way our deck functions, at least as it's currently being standardized.
Mm-hmm.
But There's definitely, I mean, you can definitely assume that, if you have the way you kind of look at water, or at least the way I look at water is if everything is maxed out. So we're looking at like, triple, like from all the Atlanteans that are being played right now, the starter ones, and then Teus, and then, three pikes if you're playing Deep Sea King. You basically have 3 turns is kind of the way I look at water. Three of your own playable turns where you're basically kind of able to cycle through every single water in one turn. So 3 shrines basically means three turns of play, 3 squads, 3 Poseidras. So that's kind of like the countdown the deck has. And then if you play cool cards like Pot of Avarice maybe, or if you play the equip spell Triana, you got an extra turn in there. Which it's Pot of Avarice is another interesting card that I'm also looking at right now. I think our deck might actually be able to play it, but it's just one of those other bricks
Yeah.
that I don't know if we can play it. That's probably the only annoying part of deck building right now is that the game is so fast that you can't play more interesting tech cards, and you can't play more interesting I guess like a brick, so to speak, that the game has like tunneled into this little like bubble of if it's not a starter and if it's not a hand trap, then you probably should only have 1 or 2 bricks top, and those bricks better do something incredible or it's just not worth playing. So it's cool in an aspect that it does force you to kind of like cut out a lot of the fat in a deck, and it really forces you to work on streamlining your strategy.
Deck's got to be streamlined
Yeah.
to the max. And yeah, I really want to play some cool tech cards in my deck, and the innovation's kind of gone. Like it's either optimized or just don't show up. You know what I'm saying? So it's a little bit
Yeah.
an annoying turn of how the game is played, but I guess that's why they have Edison format if you want to play that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I'm trying to start getting into a little bit is Edison format, trying to play some fun
Oh
cards
yeah.
instead of just hyper optimized all the best hand traps, pay $70 a piece or whatever you got to pay nowadays for those. So,
Yep.
but I don't know.
Or have some great friends that you can borrow the cards off of.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
the way we go.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I definitely got lucky. I was given a very a nice deal like on my Perulias, so I was able to pick those up for a really nice price. That was like a for friend price. And then I own like 2 Fluoros and like 2 of the Meowths. I pulled all of them in packs when I went to regionals, like the opener packs. So
Nice.
because I would borrow what I needed to like max it out at the time, and then I pull one every single time I went to a regional. And so now we're sitting pretty. I did go in on the impulses, but then I had the water core, so that
Yeah.
also made it a lot easier. I was because for me my only paywall was just the new Max C cards. And so if that's the only bullet I really need to like bite to just like have full power water, we definitely take those. Definitely take those.
Yeah.
But I have heard I have not looked at the water prices one time, but I've heard some crazy stuff about like Abysgios and Pike. Like that is just depressing. I feel so bad for people who have to go in like $10 on like a rare Pike. That's crazy.
Yeah. Funny story. Yeah. Gaios, since the support got announced, Gaios is like $70 for like the Ultra. And I got really lucky. I used to play with my roommate in college, Yugioh, and his deck at the time was Mermail, and I was trying to get him into the game like 5 years ago. So I built him a Mermail deck and sent it to him. I was like, "Here, just take this deck, have some fun, do some test hands, maybe you'll get back into it." Then the Mermail support got announced. I'm like, "Hey, dude, you still got those Mermail cards because I kind of need them, and I'm not about to drop $70 on a Gaios right now. So I'm gonna need you to mail those
Awesome.
back to me." So it came in clutch. I sent it away so I wouldn't sell it myself. It turns out, and I picked it up at a good time. So that was pretty clutch.
That's
And
cool, man.
then
How much have you?
yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry. How much have you been playing with the Mermellanians?
um,
At the current format.
the current format, I have yet to play a game with since Poseidra came out. I took them to a regional
Mm.
in the previous format, like Rage of the Abyss stuff was out, and I was playing them at locals for a few weeks. Yeah, my regionals, I went 0-2 and I dropped, so that's how that went. I lost to. I actually just talked about this in episode 2. I talked about this too as well, but in round 2 of that regionals, I played against Numeron OTK, and I got absolutely whooped on. I drew 3 dragoons in my opening hand. I'm like, okay, and no discard outlet, of course. And I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
I guess I'm guess I'm gonna get some trades in today. So I dropped out of the tournament right there. And that was pretty great. And then I also unfortunately realized that Dominus Impulse does not stop the Numeron field spell. So that was
How
not
was the
great.
Numeron field spell read?
I don't know, or maybe it's the other Numeron spell. It's like apply the effect of this spell. So it doesn't actually summon, it
Oh,
applies the effect, and therefore you can't impulse it. So I'm like, well, okay. That's not
wow.
ideal.
Yu-Gi-Oh is a crazy game sometimes.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a tough go. It was a tough go, but yeah, besides that, like I have the entire deck ready to rock, but I honestly don't play very much. I go to locals like once a month, twice a month, maybe. I mainly like make content at home instead of going. So I don't know. It's like a time thing. I don't really
Oh
want to spend my
my God.
whole Sunday at locals. I got stuff to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's kind
I
of a
feel
trade
that.
off.
Yeah, time is the hardest part. I've also noticed for myself with Yu-Gi-Oh that it requires such an the way Yu-Gi-Oh requires time from my life at least personally is just it's very difficult to fit in because I don't know, at least with so the other things I do, there's all these there's multiple versions of payoff that I can get by putting my time into something, whether that's like fitness or it's for the wife, kids, family, or work. All those things have multiple payoffs that help my life or benefit my life in certain ways. But Yu-Gi-Oh is like the one thing where it's really just out of a pure like selfish enjoyment, and so actually like so being able to like life balance that has been very tough. Yeah, because you do like so today, like after this talk here, I'm going to locals, and it's basically my whole Sunday. Especially it's gone, and this is my one real Yu-Gi-Oh day a week. And then outside of that, I maybe I'll stare at a deck list on DB every like an hour a day or something. Broken up between the day whenever I have time. I'll try and get in a match or two maybe to like get some reps in, get practice, test. But it's tough. It's really tough being able to balance all that time when you have like a whole nother life that you gotta like that you're responsible for, especially when you have other people you're responsible for as well.
Yeah. Let's get into that a minute, because if you go to your Thunder. If you join DeepseaYGO Discord or Adam and you click on your little profile, it says lifting anime, weed, Yu-Gi-Oh, gaming, metal, and 3 kids. So how the hell do you have time, for anything? Yeah, you kind of just alluded to it. You obviously gotta weigh your options, but holy, like, what's your day to
Oh
day
well.
looking like?
So some my day in the life is it's basically it's nothing too crazy. It's just it's I wake up at like 5 to go do like cardio, and I work on prep my meals today, and then before, and so I'll get back by like 6 or so from cardio. That's if I ever do record, it's right there in the morning,
Hmm.
because it's all about life balance. So at first I would try and like film at night after the gym, like before bed. But when I'm doing that, then that's time I'm not spending with kids or family. So we move it to the morning. I move to the morning. I do what I can. Uh, from I work from like 8 to 4:30, and then it's just straight to the gym from there. And lift. I train until maybe 7:30. Get home, eat a quick dinner, and then it's like, all right, an hour with the oldest son, an hour with the twins, an hour with the wife, and then if I have any time left over, I'll try and like that. That's when I'll usually do like my deck theories. I'll work on my deck theory. That's basically where I live, because I don't have like the legitimate time to where I can actually play test very consistently and like run matches and like reps in that sense. So I heavily rely on just working on the theory where, just pulling up coming up with an idea, building it on like DB, just running some test hands like in like the solo, and in solo, and then Yeah, just kind of like I feel like I'm pretty good at just being able to run test hands, or even just be able to look at the deck and kind of like just process what every single card in my deck is doing and if it's worth it or not, and then just being able to, and just based off of like that initial information, I would do I'm okay at being able to kind of like tune the deck and make it a little and optimize it just from that sense. The reps in playtesting always helps the most because that's where you really get to put the deck into action and find out what works and what doesn't work. But yeah, so in terms of balancing everything with time, I have everything down to basically a schedule, which sometimes can feel a little, a little claustrophobic in terms of like when you set something, when you have time set for every single thing in your day, anything that does not fall in that schedule can either throw anything off or it can add like unnecessary or unexpected stress you kind of have to work around. And so that's probably like the toughest part is like outside variables. So, like family events, birthday parties, just like people getting sick, stuff like that. That can definitely, throw you in a loop, but you just kind of like get back into the next day and you're just back on schedule. But then there's also been some sacrifices for sure, where so like time with like friends, that like definitely went out the door. That was like it was like friends and like honestly probably gaming, and then like real like anime manga enjoying. Those were probably the three things that had to like kind of get pushed out of the life, out of my life to make all the other things flourish a little bit better. Just other things were more of a priority, and you kind of have to just accept that, and that just comes with adulthood. And yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, and it kind of explains why. Hey, you're only playing one deck. It's because we ain't got time to be learning more than once. So,
No, it's
makes it
tough,
easy.
man. Do not.
Yeah,
Yeah, it does.
yeah, sweet. So, talk to me about your training a little bit. You do competitions, or have you done them yet, or are you just preparing, or what are we looking like?
Yeah. So, let's see. I think 2019 is when I started probably caring about anything fitness. But I had done like football in high school, and I had done like weight training during then, but I didn't love it. I didn't, because back then it was like something you have to do. It's not something I want to do. It was like you have to work out, and whenever I do something that I have to do, I definitely tend to half-ass it a little bit. If it's not something I'm like in love with, or very passionate about. I either don't care about something or I'm overly obsessive. I have a trouble like getting in the middle there. It's always one or the other. And uh, s- but in like sophomore year of high school, I fractured the my lower spine, my L4, and I basically had to stop playing. I wasn't able to play like my last year of football. I pushed through it for like 2 years. It was one of those scenarios where I say I'm hurting, and then like parents or coach or friends might be like, oh, just suck it up, like stop being a wuss, like just get out there. And then after 2 years of grinding through it, we finally got the information we needed, and they're like, yeah, your back is horrible, you have to stop playing,
Yeah,
and
told you.
stop playing football. And so that's how that turned out. So that was kind of a bummer. And I ended up taking like 2 or 3 years off of like anything fitness. I got in surgery, and there's a long healing process. Also, a huge lack of motivation, just feeling like, oh, what's the point? My back is going to stop me from being able to do it, what be able to do from whatever I want, and that was tough for a little while. But then the weight starts coming on, and you start to just kind of feel a little bad and a little annoyed with yourself. And it was just like one random day where I would just like I was like I was it was like the year after high school. I was just like sitting, I played WoW. I was playing like World of Warcraft for like a year straight, just like grinding it out, loving it, but like eating like so bad, eating garbage, just playing games every day, like not being a very responsible human. And there's just like a weird moment, it clicks in your head where you're just like, what am I doing? Like I should at least be. I should. It started with like I should at least be able to just get some cardio in every day. So then the first step in like 2019, I just started running I would run like around my block. Once every other day, and then next it was like I'd run 2 miles every other day, and then I'd run every day, and then it kept building up, and then I'm like, okay, well, let's start working out. and I did like, I would do like 6 months on, 6 months off of training, somewhat consistent, pretty kind of inconsistent. I did that for like 3 or 4 years, and then I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm watching like YouTubers show their meal plans, and I'm seeing all these guys, and I'm starting to get a little inspired. There's this guy who was doing like classic physique, and that was my first time learning about like what bodybuilding was and like competing was. And I seen that, and I was like, oh, that's like cool, like a dream come true. Like, if I could actually like get to a point where I'm big enough and lean enough to I could step on stage and compete, like that'd be crazy. But and so it was like a dream that I never thought would actually be able to take part in. And but a few years went by, and eventually got to a point where like, okay, I'm now at this point where I've for 3 years in a row I've been 6 months on, 6 months off, very like consistent, inconsistent, and it's like what am I doing here? Like, am I gonna fully commit, or am I just gonna leave the sport? At this point, I'm just training for fun basically, and. Then I was like, okay, well, let's set myself to it. So I kind of told myself that, okay, well, I think I can compete, and if I want to compete, and if I want to allow myself to compete, then I have to take at least 1 year seriously. So I had already pretty good frame by then. But then there was a year where I told myself, it was at the very beginning of the year, told myself, bulk this whole year, train like crazy, train like you've never trained before, care about your technique, care about your food every day, and I did that. I mean, I got the heaviest I'd ever gotten. I got into like 240, where during high school I would get to like 220, and that's kind of where I live. I live like 200, 220. Not with the best body fat percentage, but it wasn't horrible either. And then yeah, so I ended up doing that. I ended up training that whole year. I bulked the whole year, and I put on a lot of size. I had a really good frame built, and it was awesome. And then once I got to the end, I'm like, well, shoot, I guess we're here. So I guess I have to actually, take myself up on what I told myself I'd have to do. And it was like the beginning of last year, like January of last year. I had a buddy who had a coach, and I'm just like, yeah, man, I'll take the first coach I can get. I'm not very picky. And I got my coach. We met up, and we talked it over. And I'd actually wanted to do a show that was way too soon in correlation with the amount of fat we needed to get off me for the show.
Yeah.
I wasn't the worst looking 240, but I was definitely a little fluffy for sure. But so the beginning of like mid January or so of last year, there was a show at June 15th, and I said I want to do this show. I don't want to wait. I'm also somewhat a very impatient person. When I find something I want, or when I find something I like,
Yeah.
I kind of stick to that one thing. So I saw this show, it was June 15th. I'm like, that is the show. And then he's like, well, you're a little fluffy. We might need to push for a later show. Might be a little easier. And I'm like, no, I can't do that. I can't wait. Like, I'm already waiting, like, at this point, like 5 months, like
Yeah.
5.5 months to do this show. I can't wait any longer. That's too much. And it was brutal. It was brutal. That first prep destroyed me. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but the most rewarding thing I've ever done at the same time. Because basically the whole prep was just spent slowly cutting food and cutting food and cutting food, and then just upping cardio the whole way. And it was like we were racing down the clock, and it was really tough. I was not a great person during that time. That was also when the YouTube scene was also like picking up for me as well. And trying to balance those together was very hard. Although Yugioh was honestly my savior probably during prep as well. Like locals became my day off from bodybuilding, which it still is now, and that's probably why I go to locals weekly now, is because that's my main getaway. That's the only time where I can really turn my brain off from life responsibilities and like bodybuilding responsibilities and thinking about diet and training and all that, because you definitely need to have those kind of breaks in place just to keep yourself consistent.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd actually tried to quit like 3 times during that prep too. I tried. I would tell my, like, there was a few nights where we'd be like laying in bed, like going to bed or something, I'd be talking to the wife and just like breaking down, like just crying, just like tears everywhere, and just like saying like I can't do this anymore. Like what's the point? Like why am I hurt? Like why am I hurting myself like this? Why am I making life for everybody else so hard? Like just tell me you want me to quit and I'll quit. And I probably did that to her. Like yeah, I did that. I did do it to her 3 times. And every single time, she definitely she made me stick to it. She made me keep going, and she's the only reason I even made it on stage in the first place. And it was brutal too, because then even like 2 weeks out from the show, I had like micro tears in both of my hamstrings. And so all of a sudden, just walking and like doing like the bodybuilding poses were so difficult, because you just the strain on the hamstrings, and my knees were just like just couldn't handle it, and that just built this whole new bubble of like panic and stress right before the show. Like I was telling all my friends who originally I was like, "Hey, I have this show June 15th. Come on out, like come see me." But then these micro tears happened to my hamstrings, and I'm telling everybody like, "Don't come. I'm gonna look like garbage. I look like garbage now. I'm gonna look like garbage on stage." I just wanted to be so it got to a point where I'm just like, I just want to make it on stage and do it, just because I have to, because I committed to it.
Yeah.
And I would be very upset with myself if I did end up bowing out. But where was it going? But yeah, so my whole thought process was, let's just make it on stage. Let's just get there, say we've done it, and then either never do it ever again because this was just so bad, or maybe it turns out okay, and ended up turning out amazing. I ended up making it on stage, and it was an NPC like natural event, and I did classic physique. There's like three classes you can do basically. There's men physique, which they wear like swim shorts or board shorts, and it's more just about the upper body. And then there's the open division where it's just like the biggest and baddest possible. And then there's classic, which is it's kind of like there's more of a weight cap involved. It's a little more aesthetic, I guess. And it's like, because if anyone knows, people like if anyone knows like who Chris Bumstead is, he's like the face of classic. And so that look and that idea of a bodybuilder that's what classic is. And yeah, so that's what I did, and I ended up doing really well. I had the largest group of competitors in my class, and I got first in my class out of like there was like 2 or 3 call outs. And a call out is basically like 6 to 7 guys come out, they do their poses, walk off, and we were the only group that had that many call outs, because there were so many groups you had to rotate in and out to see who's the best out. And I ended up getting first in my class, and then I got debatably second in the overall, where there were 3 guys who were competing for the overall win, which is basically like I was in the middleweight class group, and then there was 2 other weight class groups, and all the winners from these different classes come together for the overall title. And so I did not win that out, but it was honestly a perfect scenario. I didn't need to win the overall, and honestly not winning the overall was kind of awesome, because it just gave me the motivation and fire to want to turn it around and take it on the next go. It gave me something to like want to work for. And yeah, so the bodybuilding ended up turning out really well, and after I had such like a shocking, like a personally shocking success in doing classic, I became addicted to it overnight, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
After that, it was just like there was no deterring from there. There was no thought of quitting or stopping competing. I basically never left prep. I've basically been on prep. I've been with my coach since January of last year, and now everything is just dialed in, and like the mindset is there. And what I love is being able to. The weird thing about failure, and the weird thing about losing things, is those are always your biggest opportunities to learn something and to be able to reflect. And I like to think that I am a very reflectful person. Sometimes I do like kind of hyper analyze on things too much, but in the overall, it's a positive. And so I lost my train of thought.
That's all right. Yeah, no, I mean that's awesome. Thanks for sharing all that, and I guess there's a couple ways I want to tie that back into playing Yu-Gi-Oh. So what you just said right there is like there's a lot of things that you can take away and look at, and if you feel like you're behind in something, like there's a lot of things that you can work on, a lot of small pieces that go into being successful at what you're doing. So when we're talking about bodybuilding, oh, maybe my conditioning is not great, or I'm down in a muscle group or something, I can improve that for next time. You can kind of do the same thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Hey, my technical play is not good, or my deck building is kind of weird, or my attitude about the game is kind of not good. There's so many aspects of improving at whatever you're trying to achieve. So I feel like there's a good parallel to be made right there as well.
No, I think there's a great parallel. When it comes to deck building, being able to analyze like when you've won or lost games because of card choices you made. There's a lot of times where people will draw their 5 card hand and they'll say, let's say they bricked on like 1 or 2 of the bricks they play, or maybe they're playing certain type of like extenders that don't really add too much value to your actual strategy. To be able to accept that, oh, sure, the other guy went first, and sure, he full comboed and you weren't able to play through his board and he just had it, but you have to analyze why did he have it. So you weren't able to stop him from comboing. Maybe you're not playing enough non-engine. You weren't able to break his board. Maybe you're not playing enough starters. Maybe you're not playing the right extenders or enough, or you're playing the wrong ones. Maybe you were able to stop him because you opened your bricks, because you're playing too many bricks. There's definitely places to analyze there, especially when looking at like a 40 card list versus like a 45 card list. Like, your deck size is too large. If it is too large, is there a reason for that? Like what's the issue here? Are you maining non-engine that isn't actually applicable to most of the popular decks?
Yeah.
And then when looking at technical play, that's definitely the biggest one for me. Where I find DB and in recording my feature matches at locals to be the most helpful, because between myself over analyzing my matches on DB or the locals, or having like comments on videos telling me how I can do plays better, that definitely helps me a lot with the technical play and learning from that, because none of us are perfect, and I probably mess up or misplay almost every single match. But it's just important to be able to look for every spot where you could be doing better and just try to improve for the next time. And attitude is probably the big one as well. That was probably one of the places where I had the hardest time really maturing, and that definitely came with my 2-year hiatus coming back into the game. Because it started out a little bit more casual in terms of like, I'm not hoping to do well. I just want to play to have fun. I just want to play my favorite deck, and I need Yu-Gi-Oh because it helps with bodybuilding. And then so when my attitude with the game when I came back was basically just accept whatever the format is. There's nothing we can really do about it, whether it's D shifter or it's dweller or droll. These are legal cards that Konami allows other people to play. And you can't really hate the player, you can't hate the deck. It's you kind of have to accept it, or you just like, you play casual and you play table 500. So the mindset for just staying positive and just knowing that, okay, this is the problem that you're dealing with. So like, if we say it's dweller, like dweller is the problem, well then how can we build our decks to beat dweller? How can we play around this card, rather than just saying, oh well, they have it, or oh, we're just going to lose every time. That's not always true. You can definitely, changing your attitude, it changes the way you grow, and it changes the way you reflect on your decisions. Rather than being very negative, you just choose to look for opportunities for growth.
Yeah, and then, yeah, those are good points, I think. And in addition, I think there's some actual direct benefit to, not necessarily, you don't have to be a competitive bodybuilder, but being healthy, living a healthy lifestyle and trying to play Yu-Gi-Oh at the same time. I think there's a big benefit. It's no secret, living a healthy lifestyle will help you pretty much in anything in life, but I think that you have more mental clarity, you have more actually like stamina to make it through a whole tournament. It's probably like a legit issue, but I think that's a big factor as well.
Yeah, I was definitely one of them too. But when you hear players talk about like the regional migraines, like that's like a pretty common thing you hear where like towards the end of the day, people start to get really bad headaches. Even at locals, like you might like if you have like a 4 or 5 round local, you might even experience it there as well. And so getting your meals throughout the day, even during a regional, or in like staying up on like your water intake, and can definitely make a huge difference in how your day goes. Because like the regional I did top, that was the one where I was even telling my buddies throughout the day, I'm like, wow, I feel amazing. It's like round 7 and I feel just fine. And that was like probably one of the first times I really felt like that. And that was cuz I came with like this giant like 2-story looking Minnie Mouse lunchbox just full of like all my meals, multiple like jugs of water, and
Hmm.
I'm like there was no question about it. Like I was staying dialed in with the bodybuilding side, and that also just ended up making me kind of dialed in on the health and stamina side. And yeah, that was really cool. It definitely made a difference.
Yeah, there's no greater piece of advice that I would give to anyone going to their first regional or like long tournament is to bring like more water than you would ever think you need, because I go through like I have this Nalgene here. I'll finish this before the tournament starts and I'll be like, refilling that shit throughout the day. I go to wherever
Yeah.
grocery store, get like a gallon jug, bring that and leave it in my car. I'll just buy boatloads of food because I get those headaches very quick. I'll have one by like round 2. And if I'm not eating and drinking constantly, because in a normal day for me, I'm eating and drinking, every hour, every 2 hours tops, and you can't just go take from there into a tournament and just not eat or drink at all. You're just gonna get cooked, right? So that's like my favorite piece of advice to give anyone going to a tournament is like bring water and food. It's so important, and there's no way you can function at a high level if you're not, nourished. If you're not eating or drinking, it's impossible, I think.
Yeah, another benefit I also noticed that I got from bodybuilding was after I did my first show, that was basically the most probably like I've definitely gone through some I guess like traumatic moments or whatever in my life, just like life-changing moments for sure. But in terms of personal benefit, the my first show was probably the biggest pivot in my life. From before that point, I had always had really bad insecurity and confidence issues that I just, that we all deal with in our own different ways. For whatever reason. But when I did that show, that was the first time I was able to tell myself that I did something, and I was successful at something, and I was the reason. I was the cause. But I think one of my favorite things about bodybuilding is that it is a single player sport, and what is cool about that is it means when you do well, you do see success in the bodybuilding world. It's only because of you, because you're the one that has to train every day. You're the one that has to eat or not eat every day. You take your vitamins every day. That's not an easy thing to do. It seems easy from like a outside the circle perspective, but once you're in it, 365 days plus of doing the same thing, it can get taxing for sure, especially if you're trying to lose weight or gain weight. There's a lot of points where you might deter. But after I did that show, there was basically a huge change in my mental frame for everything else in life, where all of a sudden I had true confidence and self belief in myself. And honestly, taking that's what made me believe I could do well at a regional. That's what made me believe I could do well at locals. That's what made me believe that when the day finally came where this last regional I had, I was fully confident in myself. And having that confidence, you wouldn't think it really means anything, because a lot of the times people look at Yu-Gi-Oh like a game where it's just let's say it's just Ryziel versus Mermail Atlantean. That like the players are not taken into account for that match. When that is like when I look at Yu-Gi-Oh as a player versus player game, and our Yu-Gi-Oh cards are just our versions of our chess pieces. We're playing, it's a player versus player game playing Yu-Gi-Oh, not so much like the decks themselves play each other, because if the decks themselves play each other, well then there'd be no like mystery, or there'd be no the outcome would be the same every time.
Hmm.
And when you take into account that it is a player versus player game, things like health, in terms of stamina, or things like confidence or belief in yourself, can definitely help with mental clarity or decision making during a game. It can help with making like the correct reads or bluffing. I believe like having self confidence in yourself when playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and I mean that has to be backed up by the fact that you put some amount of reps in your deck, and you know what your cards do, and most importantly, you know what your opponent's cards do. But once you have all that down pat, that self confidence in yourself, I think, can actually take you going from losing out at locals constantly to actually kind of just like clearing locals like weekly to weekly, and then going further than that, going to a regional level and having success.
Yeah, I agree. Confidence is a huge thing. I got mine personally from doing content. Like when I started, or making videos and stuff. When I started playing again, kind of competitively, I would walk in or I would sit across from the guy at locals, and I would just assume for some reason that this guy is a legend and I don't know what I'm doing. When in reality,
Yeah.
it's fine. Like it's just another bozo. You know what I mean? So when I started
Bozo.
doing videos, I started getting good at like talking or whatever. Like I didn't really care any. Or I cared less about how good the other guy was, and I started caring more about like what can I do, what can I control, and that kind of stuff. I can express myself better. I don't know how to explain it really, but it's almost like a
Oh,
confidence thing as well. Just now that I talk to cameras, 3 times a week, I don't really care. I'll sit across from anyone at locals, at regionals, or whatever. I've been at regionals in the YCS. I've been playing against players that I know and I've seen on YouTube and stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm just gonna play like any other day. When like 3 years ago, I would have been like shaking, all that kind of stuff. I had real confidence issues and
yeah,
that kind of thing
yeah,
when
I
playing
know
Yu-Gi-Oh, and it kind of took the fun out a little bit. So now I'm enjoying it.
for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know what you're talking about because even when I was going over some of my local matches, there'd be matches where I knew the players. When I'd be watching the matches back, I'd be able to comment on the fact that, oh, this player I'm playing against, he normally, when I sit against this guy, I'm normally very nervous, and you can actively see me make misplays in the match, and I would call it out. I would call out these misplays I'm making that really come out of thin air. Like there's no reason to be making this play that I would normally make correct every time, but a lot of it would just be due. I'm just nervous because the player I'm playing against I believe is better than me, and just in putting that in the air, and starting to like think that way will definitely cause you to like make mistakes and or hold back on plays that you might normally make. Yeah, it's actually crazy how much that influences you. That while it is a player versus player game, you also you don't need to care about whatever credentials your opponent has. They're just another person drawing the same amount of cards that you are. They don't have 10 cards in their hand. They don't just automatically draw the best cards in their hand. They're gonna open a somewhat playable hand just like you will, and all you have to do is just play your cards out like you've practiced, and ignore whatever title they might have or whatever credentials they might have.
Yeah. Yep. That sounds pretty good, man. So we're coming up on an hour. Let's go ahead and do a couple more quick hitters. Let's round off some of your list on Discord here. Anime. What are some of your favorites? I know you mentioned that you kind of cut that out a little bit or sacrifice that in terms of your time, but what are your favorites in the past?
Oh, okay. So I do still keep up with it a little bit. The coolest thing about prep is that when like I have half an hour or 40 minutes of cardio here, an hour of cardio here. When I have cardio, that's like perfect anime binging time. So the coolest thing about prep is anime because it come back to my life a little bit. But I would say if anything, I'm probably more of like a manga guy, which is like these books over here. It's just like all like the physical comic book versions of like anime. And my favorite manga by all time is Berserk. I don't know if you know what Berserk is. Berserk is like that was another like just kind of mindset life changing story in terms of like just really impactful on me, and I really it's Berserk is just a story about a guy who basically he's just being he's just getting the worst circumstances in life possible and just never giving up. But the way they portray it and the way the story moves through that is just it's incredible. And even though it's not real, you can still take a lot from it. And so Berserk is probably like my number one of all time. my gateway to anime and manga was Naruto, and and Naruto's definitely like my second favorite. A couple others are like One Punch Man. Right now, Solo Leveling is just like it's hitting. Solo Leveling is great. Trying to think of others. Death Note's an awesome one. The Yu-Gi-Oh anime as well. I love the Yu-Gi-Oh anime. I still watch that now every once in a while. I'll pull it up, see if I can get some like some nostalgic dopamine out of it.
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh GX is definitely my favorite, for
Nice.
sure. I like the original, but GX had like the archetypes. It had Cyber Dragons, which was like my favorite, like I guess anime deck, like Zane Truesdale and Cyber Dragons. Like he was like the most badass character in the whole show, and so that was cool. But yeah, no, those are probably my favorite animes.
Sweet. All right. How about gaming? Any what do you play? And what are your favorites
When
of
it
all
comes
time as well?
All-time favorite gaming is probably like Gears of War and Halo. I was an Xbox kid, and so those are the two go-tos for sure. In terms of like the only other game I ever took seriously was when I went to PC was Rainbow Six Siege. It's like a first person shooter. It's like a 4v, I think it's like a 4 or 5v5 SWAT kind of game where like there's people in a house and they bunker up and then the attackers have to come in and get through the barricades, like defuse the bomb or plant the bomb, whatever. Or it's So that was my favorite. Those are probably my favorite few video games. I'm trying to think of a couple others. I mean, there's some ones that I always go back to, like the Portal series, like Portal 1, Portal 2, just awesome games. Slay the Spire. I don't know if you've played Slay the Spire at all, but like that's a video game, card game. Oh, that is a deck builder's dream. Deck builder's dream. Oh, that is such a fun game. And then there's even like the mobile game, like Pokemon Pocket. Oof, I'm on
Nice.
that Pokemon Pocket right now, pretty hard.
Nice. You mentioned earlier World of Warcraft 2. You play that? You used to play that anyway. How do you feel
Yeah,
about it?
Yeah, I used to play a little bit of WoW. I was never super good at it. But I love being able to play it. There was another game where I just kind of came in and out at random times throughout my life, and yeah, that game was more of just like I was never doing anything crazy with it. It was just more of a cruise and a good time. And you can put a lot of hours in that game, and but I loved every minute of it. But yeah, so WoW was a cool one.
Right on, man. All right, last one. Metal. What music do you like? What's your favorite
Oh,
artists and stuff?
so let's see. So like the number like top of the list is definitely Avenged Sevenfold. Have you ever heard of Avenged Sevenfold before?
Yeah.
But that was like my gateway. It's like before metal music, it was strictly like, oh God, what are they called? There were like these little pop CDs that would come out, and every few months, and it'd have all like the top singles of like pop singles at the time. And so like I would just listen to like Britney Spears or like the Black Eyed Peas in the car with my mom, and then eventually like my buddy showed me song called Lost from Avenged Sevenfold, and that was the gateway. And ever since I heard that song, it was just like, oh, this is my kind of music. This is real music. I am just in love.
Nice.
And so Avenged Sevenfold took it away. System of the Down is another huge one. And then I had like other bands like let's see, there's like Dance Gavin Dance, Beartooth, Amity Affliction, um, and yeah, so those are probably like the top bands. And I know I like my fun stuff too. There's like some random pop singles I like. I'm an absolute Adele fanboy. I love all of her music. I love like lofi music, and I go in and out of like rap as well, but mainly I live in the metal world.
Nice. Good stuff, man. That's really all I got to cover. Do you is there anything you want to talk about before we head off or anything like that?
Um, let's see. Things that we can talk about. I don't know. We could unless you have anything else that you want to maybe go over with like, I guess we can go over like your thought, like what are your thoughts on like the format right now? Like how are you feeling about like the state of the game? Because I get a lot of different opinions on it, and personally, I'm pretty in love with the format right now. I feel like it's in a really good spot. But I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, dude. Well, I'll start with like a comparison to like a year ago. This format is phenomenally better. It's way better than Snake Eyes and Ubel type of stuff. I like that there's a turn three, like that it exists. And when last year it was like break my board or lose.
Yeah.
But I think it's in a good spot. I really do. I think there's just a couple of hits that I would like to see on this list to get a little bit more balance, but I like that you can kind of play whatever you want almost and feel like you have a chance. When last year you're playing Snake Eye or you lose, essentially, is what it felt like almost. But now I can pull up with any rogue deck as long as it can, I'll put Fiendsmith plus any rogue strategy, and hey, there's a chance I win that game. So I do kind of like that about what's going on. I think that the things I don't like is kind of the turn skippy cards that are around Shifter, like Fuelos into some decks feels really turn skippy. Uh, Even though I despise Malice, I don't like that there's this Malice plus Lancia interaction where it's like you either like get blown out or you draw Lancia and you auto win. I don't really like that interaction, but as a Malice hater, I'm glad Lancia exists for now. Uh,
Yeah, although I would definitely trade a shifter ban for a Lancia ban. 100%. Like if you just ban those two cards, you ban Dweller. Oh, I love that format. Like this format with those three cards banned is crazy.
Yeah, well, I bet you would as an Atlantean player wanting Dweller and Shifter banned real quick. That'd be probably fine with you, but
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
But no, I mean, but you're spot on, man. Like the worst part about old Yu-Gi-Oh was there really only ever was three viable decks. That there were like at any given time, there were no rogue decks. They just couldn't keep up. There was like anti-meta, or you're playing one of the three best decks, and all those decks were always incredibly expensive. Now it's like every format is technically a 20 plus deck format where I have no comprehension of how many decks are actually viable. And if any of these rogue decks go first and go full combo, they're probably winning every time. And that's a really cool thing to have now. And I think what that also allows you to do is it makes it to where I think to some degree, as long as the support for a certain rogue deck is somewhat viable, if it's just good enough, I think just about any deck can be like solvable in the terms of like you can make your rogue deck fit into the current strategy, like with the deck building practice and the positive mentality practice, and then also work on technical play and being able to take notes and reflect or record and watch over your matches and to learn from those. I think you can take whatever bad rogue deck you have and actually have some amount of success with it as long as you put in the time and effort for it.
Yeah, case in point, YCS Birmingham fire with the Fire King victory. That was one of the coolest things I've seen in the game in years. And I don't know,
Oh yeah.
I love that it happened.
Oh, it was crazy. And what was cool about that too is that I didn't because so that would have happened like the year before, during Fire, it's just another annoying Fire King, Snake Eyes, Snake or Fire Deck, whatever. It has the Snake Eyes cards in it. But now you see Fire Kings do well without any of the Snake Eyes cards, and all of a sudden it's like a cool deck. It's like
Yeah.
actually cool to play. It doesn't get any of the hate that it would have gotten like a year before. And so I really love that win too. It's unfortunate that we got to see Fire beat Water, but hey, if anything, one more loss against Water is just helps keep our deck a rogue just a little bit longer. You
There
know
we
what I mean?
go. There we go. Playing the long game. Yeah. And shout outs to that water
Yeah.
player. I don't know if did you watch the match?
I
That
did watch the match. He actually, and I totally understand. He that game was his. He definitely could have won that match, but the pressure of being in a feature match, especially like in like top four like that, I can only imagine how that might feel. I would love to be able to do a feature match for on like Konami stage one day. That'd be
yeah.
awesome. But the nerves would definitely get to me for sure.
Well, yeah,
But that'd be so cool. Yeah, shout out to him.
yeah. Well, and also, I wanted to shout out that guy because he could have won at the end in time if he just like played at a normal pace, but he actually played fast enough to give Digabui a chance to actually have a turn. So, I mean, shout outs to not kind of get a little more scummy win as well. That was really cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The time rolls are very obnoxious, and I do not like them at all.
Yeah.
I understand why we can't do 5 turns anymore or 3 turns anymore, and I don't think we need that. But at least being able to finish the turn, or personally, what I would probably like is you probably just give the player who's finishing their turn, you probably just allow them to finish their turn and then give your opponent one more turn as well, and you probably just stop it there. Or something along those lines. I just don't, the ending on the phase is just brutal, and
Yeah.
it just yeah. And then because then it makes you feel like yeah, you get in these weird scenarios where like, oh, am I going to play a normal pace and win, or am I going to or am I going to like stall or play fast so I can give him a turn? Like I want to be a good guy and be fair, so I'm going to play fast for him. When you technically don't have to do that, but then maybe morally you should. It's really annoying that like Konami puts us in this place where you kind of have to like, there's like this weird moral aspect when playing out these like last couple minutes.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, but you know, it's all good. There's got to be some solution. Who knows what it is? But I guess we're at their mercy anyway. So
Yeah, man,
it's fine. All right. Thanks for coming on. Any shout outs before we head off? Or anything like
yeah,
that?
let's do shout out to the wife for, let me keep up like this Yu-Gi-Oh hobby every day of my life. I love it so much. I mean, the whole YouTube thing is kind of like a dream come true. Like, you don't really need 1 million subscribers to just love the fact that you're doing like something that you dreamed to do as a kid. So that's been awesome. And then so shout out to Dragon's Lair, my locals. There's all the guys there are also like a huge part of the reason why I'm able to do this. They let me record my matches. The amount of cards I have been lent and basically given for crazy discounted prices just to get me back in the game. I mean, these guys help me out so much, and shout out to all the homies. You guys know who you are. Shout out to all the Discord, the Let's Go Fishing Discord. That Discord's crazy. A bunch of solid players in there, and like they're all way better than me, and they're just like posting combos and like deck ideas all the time. It's awesome. So like I have all like these tools for information. Yeah, and so that's probably it.
Sweet. Thanks for coming on. I'll link all of DeepseaYGO's stuff down below. YouTube channel, Discord link. Whatever else you want me to link over there as well, I'll chuck that in. Thanks for coming on to the show. And yeah, good
man,
luck at locals later, man.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I'll catch you, brother.
Sounds good, buddy. Thank you.